Theme 2. Allah's relation with His created world, humans, Allah's blessings for humans, and His expectations from them. Passages 6 to 10. Passage 6. Al-Fatiha, Surah 1. A. Theme. This is the opening surah of the Quran, Fatiha, opened, that summarizes relationship between Allah and humans. It is known by many other names. It is the only surah where Tasmiyah is its first verse. It begins with a praise of Allah and ends with an invocation of guidance from Him. The first 4 verses describe Allah as Lord of the worlds, both known and unknown to humans, His grace and mercy, and His overlordship of the Day of Judgment. The next 2 verses teach the believers to worship Allah alone and seek His help. The last 2 verses ask them to beg Allah to show them the straight path, designed by Him. It is the path followed by those who were blessed by Allah, not the ones who incurred His anger. The right path is contained in the rest of Quran and Sunnah of the Prophet. Another verse mentions it as, "And verily you guide humans to the right path." 42:52, Al-Shura. B. Importance of the theme. This surah is so important that it was revealed first in Mecca and then in Medina. Its recitation is mandatory in daily prayers, as declared by the Prophet. There is no prayer or salat if a person fails to recite Al-Fatiha in it. Sahihain, according to a hadith Qudsi, when this surah is recited as a supplication in salat, every word of it is received with grace and immediate acceptance by Allah. Therefore, children in all Muslim families are taught to learn this surah as part of their spiritual training. According to another hadith, when the Imam finishes the surah, the Muqtadi's followers should say, Ameen. May it be, as it coincides with the angels saying the same. Muslims, by reciting the surah, develop a strong hope of Allah's compassion. They also try to be pious because Allah is not only merciful but also master of the Day of Judgment. This reminds them of their accountability in the divine court of justice. Passage 7. 2:21-22, Al-Baqarah. A. Theme. The 2 verses describe the theme of Tawhid and staying away from shirk. Verse 21 addresses the whole humankind, telling them that only one Allah created them and their ancestors. Therefore, if they want to be pious, they should worship Him alone. This means belief in Tawhid is intimately linked with taqwa's piety. Verse 22 proceeds to outline Allah's blessings for the physical and spiritual growth of humans. It mentions the relationship between the earth as a resting place and the heavens a sky as a shield. Rainfall from the sky stimulates earth to produce crops, making human labor fruitful. Heavens as canopy also implies coming of divine revelation for the spiritual growth of humans. Like the previous verse, this verse also ends with a command to adore Allah alone and not associate any partners with Him, as shirk is the gravest of all sins. This Quranic injunction is repeated in many other surahs such as, worship Allah and associate nothing with Him. For 36, Al-Nisa. B. Importance of the theme. These verses encourage Muslims to identify Allah by observing the natural environment created by Him. This will convince them to express their gratitude for all the bounties created by their Lord. Moreover, this will draw their attention towards the importance of additional blessings of Allah in the form of guidance He sent down through His messengers. They all brought the universal message of Tawhid and obedience and gratitude to Allah. The passage invites Muslims to constantly observe Allah's innumerable favors and blessings. The Quran urges Muslims to remember Allah's care for them as, then which of the bounties of your Lord will you deny? Surah 55, Al-Rahman. This will inculcate a strong sense of responsibility to their environment by conserving and keeping it clean. This is one of the several ways of remembering Allah and expressing thanks to Him for all that He created for the survival and welfare of humankind. Passage 8. Surah Al-Alaq, 96:1-5. A. Theme. B. Reading these verses, Muslims acknowledge Allah's favors of creating man from a low origin. These 5 verses of Surah Al-Alaq were revealed to the Prophet as the first ever revelation. Jibreel taught these verses to the Prophet while he was meditating in the cave Hira in Ramadan 610 AD. The remaining verses were revealed much later when the Prophet began to offer regular prayer in the Haram. The command of read in the name of your Lord in the first verse means the Prophet was already familiar with one supreme Allah. The word alaq was traditionally translated as a clot of congealed blood. In modern times it refers to the primary state of embryo that resembles a leech. The next verses mention Allah's power to create humans from a humble origin and mature them to acquire worldly knowledge by using the pen. The ability to read and write shaped human intellectual evolution over the ages. The last verse points to Allah's scheme of granting humans spiritual knowledge through divine revelation as and when it was required for humans. B. Importance of the theme. By reading these verses, Muslims acknowledge Allah's favors of creating man from a low origin. This makes them realize their humbleness before Allah. By acknowledging Allah's power to make humans His most superior creature, they express thanks to Him. This they do by acquiring worldly knowledge, thus proving themselves distinct from other creatures of Allah. They start pondering over this Quranic verse, "We have indeed created man in the best of molds." 95:4 Ultin, the gift of knowledge is so supreme that Allah commanded the angels to bow down before Adam because he was made superior due to the knowledge granted to him by Allah. According to many ahadith, pen was among the first ever creations of Allah. Finally, they try to be pious servants of Allah by following His commands contained in the Quran and Sunnah. Thus, they strive to identify the real purpose of their creation. Passage 9. Surah Al-Zilzal 99. A. Theme. Some commentators regard it an early Madnian surah. However, major reporters like Ibn Abbas and Ibn Mas'ud believe it to be a late Makkan surah. The surah focuses on 3 main aspects of the end of time. First, it alerts humans about the terrible convulsions the earth will experience with the start of the Day of Judgment. The earth will throw up all its contents. Another Quranic verse mentions the same as, "and when the earth casts forth what is within it." 84:3-4 Al-Inshikak. Secondly, it informs humans about the earth bearing witness to all their deeds. This will shock humans as they had never imagined anything like this. Finally, it presents the scene of the divine court where all will be categorized according to their good and evil deeds under the immaculate justice and power of Allah. The smallest possible deeds will be rewarded by Allah as He has arranged for the recording of each and every action of humans. B. Importance of the theme. This surah strengthens Muslims' belief in Allah's power to bring an end to time and creates a genuine fear of accountability before Him. Due to the importance of its content, the Prophet declared it equivalent to half of the Quran. By understanding its message, the Muslims realize the worthlessness of this world and the value of true and eternal world of the hereafter. Such realization prepares them to obey Allah's commands and not commit sins. If a believer has a true belief in the hereafter, he will not feel frustrated if he fails to get justice in this world. This Quranic verse will keep his hope alive. Surely Allah does not do injustice to the weight of an atom, and if it is a good deed He multiplies it. For 40, Al-Nisa, this belief will encourage him to avoid all evil practices, and he will be motivated to live a righteous life. Passage 10. Surah Al-Nas 114. A. Theme. This is the last surah of the Quran revealed together with Surah 113. Both are called Al-Muawwazatan, the two protectors. Some traditions declare them to have been revealed in Makkah, but relatively stronger sources prove them to be Madnian. Both teach Muslims not to have any fears of all kinds of evil forces, whether visible or invisible. Surah 113 teaches to seek Allah's protection from the visible or external evils. This surah, on the other hand, reassures Muslims of Allah's powers to protect them against the invisible or internal evil forces. Repetition of Allah's attributes in the first 3 verses assures humans of Allah's powers and love for them. The remaining verses warn against Satan and mention his method of enticing humans and weakening of their faith. He whispers evil ideas in their hearts, and then temporarily withdraws to see the effect of his attempt. For this reason, the Quran repeatedly declares, "Verily Satan is an avowed enemy to man." 12:5 Yusuf. B. Importance of the theme. This first word, Qul say, carries a commanding tone, and requires Muslims to be obedient to Allah. This is the best way to seek His refuge against evil forces. A genuine obedience removes any doubts about Allah's supremacy. Moreover, this eradicates any false belief of worldly powers controlling human destinies. Muslims are taught to turn to Allah whenever they face any difficulty or evil powers. The Quran repeatedly reminds them the importance of this. Say, "O Prophet, all matters are destined by Allah." 3:154 Al-Imran. This means the remembrance of Allah guarantees defeat of Satan's mission of misguiding humans who try to follow the right path. Therefore, they follow the Prophet's tradition by reciting the last two surahs regularly before going to bed. Regular recitation of the last two surahs acts as an antidote against all satanic forces, including undesirable ideas and black magic. As a result, their bondage with Allah gets stronger. Compound questions on Theme 2, P1Q2. Q. A. From passages you have studied from the Quran, write about Allah's relationship with humankind. 10. B. Explain the significance of the Quran being revealed to humankind. 4. ANSA. The set passages are 1. Al-Fatiha, 2:21-22, Al-Baqarah, 96:1-5, Al-Alaq, 99, Al-Zilzal, and 114, Al-Nas. Surah Al-Fatiha presents a summary of Allah's relation with humankind. It begins with a praise of Allah, who is Lord of all the worlds, full of utmost degree of mercy and master of the Day of Judgment. The surah then mentions that Allah alone is worthy of worship, and His help is to be sought in all matters. It teaches Muslims to beg Him for guiding them to the path of righteousness that guarantees Allah's pleasure. The right path, contained in the Quran and Hadith, is the way of living acceptable to Allah. Those communities who treaded this path were able to earn Allah's pleasure. Those who deviated from it became victims of His anger and wrath. The verses 21-22 of Surah Al-Baqarah give a description of Allah's love for humans and His expectation from them to recognize Him as the only creator of all humans. Verse 21 states the chance of being righteous as a result of worshipping one Allah. This reminds humans to accept one Allah in order to get a chance of salvation from hell. Verse 22 enlists Allah's bounties in terms of the intimate relationship between the earth and the heavens. This relationship is aimed at providing means of survival to humans in both the worlds. Earth is the ultimate resting place for all after a day-long hectic life. Heaven or sky acts as a shield that provides shade and keeps Earth vibrant and productive for the survival and growth of humans. Rainfall comes from the sky to feed Earth to produce food essential for humans. The purpose of mentioning all these is to alert humans to identify their true Lord and avoid shirk. The passage 96:1-5, Al-Alaq, the first revelation of the Quran, elaborates the ways humans are dependent on Allah. It invites humans to recall to their minds how Allah created them from a humble origin, then matured them and enabled them to acquire knowledge. The passage refers to Allah's special blessing for humans in the form of enabling them to acquire knowledge. This unique ability of using the pen by humans makes them distinct from and superior to other creatures. The passage, therefore, begins with the command, "Read in the name of your Lord." The 5 verses concisely describe Allah's greatest blessings on humans, granting them the skills to acquire knowledge, and sending for them divine revelations for their guidance and success in both the worlds. These blessings have exclusively been bestowed on humans who need to acknowledge them and express their gratitude to Allah by obeying His code of conduct. Surah 99, Al-Zilzal, presents some of the horrifying scenes of the end of time. It states the unusual tremors the earth will experience with the start of the Day of Judgment that will lead to a series of several chaotic and upsetting events. These subsequent events include the earth revealing its hidden contents, much to the shock of all humans who had never imagined such scenes. This means the earth will bear witness to the performance of all humans in their worldly living. They will then be categorized according to their deeds. the surah finally states the immaculate divine justice by which all humans will be rewarded for the smallest of good or bad deeds. Surah 114, Al-Nas, is the concluding surah of the Quran. It was revealed with Surah 113 in the same context. Both are collectively called Al-Muwadhatain, or the two protectors against evil forces. The surah begins in a reassuring tone by mentioning Allah's relation with humans in three capacities: Lord, King, and Allah of all mankind. It, therefore, commands Muslims to seek Allah's refuge against all evil forces, as He alone is capable of protecting them. It also tells about Satan's mode of misguiding humans by referring to his ability to inject evil ideas in their minds and then withdrawing temporarily to see the effect of his ugly mission. Satan's mission is to entice humans and keep them from obeying Allah, as is reminded by the Quran. Therefore, Muslims should always trust in Allah's supremacy against all evils, as He is the best protector. B. The Holy Quran is the last divine message revealed on the last messenger of Allah, Hazrat Muhammad. It contains guidance for all ages and communities, starting from the community of Hazrat Muhammad. It is to serve as the ultimate touchstone to tell right from wrong, as is declared in many of its verses. The Quran shows Allah's concern about humans who are target of Satan and his host of helpers. By revealing the Quran, Allah provided a shield to humans against all evils, and a guidance to the right path. Verily, this Quran guides to that which is most right. 17:9 Al-Isra. Thus, Quran guarantees man's success in both the worlds. It guides humans in matters concerning beliefs, acts of worship, as well as issues related to social interaction, so that a balanced way of life is followed by its readers. It is the medium through which humans can contact Allah. The Quran teaches Muslims about their relationship with Allah. Write about this relationship using the passages you have studied. 10. B. Allah gave humankind guidance and teachings. Why does the Quran lay emphasis on the need to gain knowledge? 4. ANSA. Each of the 5 passages set for special study describes in its own way how Allah has been kind to humans, and how humans should respond to His favors. Surah 1, Al-Fatiha, states Allah's status as the Supreme Lord of the entire universe, who deserves all praise. He is the ultimate and the best source of mercy and guidance, and He alone will judge all humans on the day of resurrection. Surah 99 reminds humans of Allah's powers to destroy the universe, but in this surah Allah has been mentioned as sustainer of all the worlds. Humans, in turn, need to worship Him and seek His mercy and forgiveness. They should remember that Allah is not only most merciful but also just. He will dispense immaculate justice for all humans on the final day. Therefore, they should turn to Him for guidance to the right path that is contained in the Quran and Sunnah. They should follow the teachings of these sources of ultimate guidance and salvation from the torment of hellfire. They should strengthen their bond with Allah by observing the 5 pillars and moral teachings of Islam. 2:21-22, the 2 verses of Al-Baqarah, describe the flawless arrangements made by Allah for the physical and spiritual growth of humankind. The verses draw human attention to Allah being the sole creator of all generations and races. He does not abandon His servants after creating them, but provides them with means of sustenance by a phenomenal cycle of rain, crop production, and shelter. Thus, this passage resembles the passage 96:1-5 that also refers to how Allah enabled humans to acquire knowledge, both worldly and divine. Humans are expected to be grateful to Him by preserving the environment and by not associating partners with Him. They should worship Him and acknowledge His immense bounties. First 5 verses of Surah Al-Alaq, 96:1-5, were revealed to the Prophet as an answer to the queries he had in his mind. He used to think about Allah's relation with humankind. Allah sent these verses to explain how He created humans from a very low origin and then matured them to acquire knowledge. Whereas the passage 2:21-22 talks about Allah's powers to provide food and shelter to humans, this passage refers to Allah's favor of granting humans the ability to acquire knowledge. This trait of humans made them superior over other creatures who are unable to read and write. Allah also sent the divine knowledge for their success in both the worlds. Humans should, therefore, acquire knowledge in order to identify the purpose of their living. They should also spread knowledge so that collective human welfare is ensured. Surah 99, Al-Zilzal, outlines the events of the end of time. It mentions Earth becoming a witness on the Day of Judgment to tell Allah how humans used or misused Earth and its resources. It reminds them their duties towards Allah and the environmental comforts He created for humankind. Surah 114 discusses Allah's powers to protect humans from evils, while this surah tells humans how to beware of the consequences of their actions on the earth. Humans should realize this by not damaging the environment and by following the guidance contained in the Quran and Sunnah. They should express thanks to Allah for being so caring towards them and develop a sense of accountability before Him for all their actions. Surah 114, Al-Nas, is the concluding surah of the Quran and is believed to have been revealed together with Surah 113. As both have the same theme, they are called Al-Muwahhatain, or the two protectors. This surah warns humans of the evil forces around them to which all are vulnerable. These unholy forces are led by Satan, who is assisted by his followers that include both humans and jinns. The passage 2:21-22 mentions Allah's favors for the survival of humans, but this surah alerts humans about the forces that can distract them from the right path. It teaches humans that only Allah can protect them from all satanic powers, as He is all-powerful. Surah 114 mentions these devilish elements have been created to test humans, and the only way of getting through these tests is to strengthen ties with Allah by seeking His refuge. Thus, it trains Muslims to conduct jihad bil nafs, spiritual jihad, which is a lifelong struggle against Satan. Humans should seek Allah's protection by remembering and obeying Him. Salat is the best means of remembering Allah, as is stated elsewhere in the Quran, and establish Salat in order to remember me. 2014, Taha. However, recitation of the Quran and observing other pillars of Islam are also effective antidote against Satan. B. The first Quranic revelation begins with the command to read, Iqra. This shows how important it is for humans to gain knowledge. By acquiring knowledge, humans are able to identify Allah, their duties towards Him and towards the fellow humans. Knowledge enables them to think about their purpose of living. The Quran repeatedly mentions the benefits of knowledge. At one place, it links knowledge with the creation of humankind. He has taught the Quran. He has created man. He has taught him how to express himself. 55:1-4, Al-Rahman. This means knowledge is the tool of expressing oneself. Humans need to express whatever good they have learned in the form of secular and spiritual knowledge. This enables them to guide others to follow the Quran and Sunnah. The Prophet, therefore, instructed all Muslims to acquire knowledge is the duty of every Muslim man and Muslim woman. Theme 3, Allah's relation with His messengers.